Let's just hope that I'm somewhat in frame, somewhat in focus, because we have a lot to talk about. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I thought that today I would do my
July
wrap-up. So I read 8 books in June. 4 of them were fantasies, 2 of them were contemporaries. I also read 1 historical fiction and 1 sci-fi. 4 of the books were YA, 3 of them were for adults, and 1 of them were a middle grade. If we're looking at format, 3 of them I read as digital books, 4 of them were physical copies, and 1 of them was actually an audiobook, my first ever audiobook. 1 of them was rated with 2 stars, 1 of them with 3 stars, and 6 of them with 4 stars. I will go through the books in the order that I read them. In
July,
I also participated in 3 different readathons. The first book that I read was A Whisper in the Dark by Jesse Elliott and KJ Sutton. I read this for Becca's Bookathon. It's the first volume in I believe it's called the Charlie Travesty series, which is about vampires. So this was an adult book, an adult fantasy that I rated 4 stars. Basically the story is about a vampire, a girl named Charlotte. She's about to turn 23, and when a vampire in this universe turns 23, she goes through what is called the awakening, which means that when she wakes up, her eyes will have changed color, and her role in society is based on what color her eyes are. And that's basically where the story takes off. If I tell you anything more, you will be spoiled. I was very happy about it actually. It's been a while since I read a vampire book, so it felt good to be back on the vampire stuff. Following A Whisper in the Dark, I completed The Silence of Bones by June Her. This I also read for a readathon. I read it for the readathon, and this was the group book for the readathon. And unfortunately it was the only book that I read for the readathon. It takes place during the Juson era, and our main character Sol, basically she works for the police and helps them out with cases, because during this time men were not allowed to touch female bodies, like during an investigation. So she helps out investigating with the corpses and things like that. And there is a murder mystery. It's very interesting. I really enjoyed the cultural aspects of it, the descriptions of the clothing and the culture and that time, that era in Korea, but I don't think I got that into the actual mystery of the book. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I enjoyed the writing, I enjoyed the cultural parts of the book, but I struggled getting into the mystery. I didn't really get that much into the actual story. 3 stars, solid read. Following that one, I read The Wicked King by Holly Black, and this one I also read for the Bookathon. And I read this entire book in just one day. I was very happy about it, and I really liked this one. So I read The Cruel Prince earlier this year during the spring, but I did prefer this one so much more. The story of this trilogy, I guess, is about a human named Jude who lives in the fairy world. And of course, as the name suggests, there is a cruel prince in this world. So it's basically about fairies, some political issues, a bit of romance, fantasy. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I feel like the characters grew quite a lot. We had many moments I enjoyed in this one. I have ordered a 3rd one in this trilogy now, and I'm very excited to read it as soon as it gets here, after I finish Midnight Sun and maybe a couple other books. With solid read, better than the first one. Let's continue. After The Wicked King, I finished reading Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I started reading this one just for fun, but I decided to finish it during Becca's Bookathon as well. After I had finished The Wicked King, I finished this one. I was about halfway through it. And as you see, I have my post-its for this one that I use because I do like voice memos to my friends regarding my opinions about the book. The Chamber of Secrets, the 2nd book in the Harry Potter story. I liked it. It was good. The pacing was quite good. I think it's like the shortest book, but there's so much going on. I didn't love it as much as I loved the first one. I knew I would like the Harry Potter books. I have not read them before, but I knew I would like them. But I didn't expect to love the first one so much. This one I also really enjoyed, but not as much, which means that I only gave this a 4 star. If you're interested in like the things I mark here, because I do have a system, let me know. Perhaps I could share some of that. Let's move on. After Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, I actually listened to my first ever audiobook. I listened to The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. I have never listened to an audiobook before, but I recently got a Scribd account. I decided why not, and I had heard that Angie Thomas's books were great audiobooks. It's been on my TBR for ages. I struggled with the first chapter. I think, I don't know, I was just not used to listening to audiobook, which probably affected my impression of the book. I did struggle with the first chapter, but then honestly the second time I put in my earplugs and started listening again, I was into it. So I think it's just a habit. Now I really want to listen to audiobooks. It's such an easy way to just consume books. So I do think my rating for The Hate You Give might have been affected by just the general audiobook experience for me. I did rate The Hate You Give with a 4-star. I don't have any complaints about it. It was a really good book. Angie Thomas writes family dynamics and relationships so well. It's so good. Highly recommend this book actually. This book is about a young girl named Star. She's black and she's from a black family and she lives in, I guess you can say, a black neighborhood, but she goes to a private school where she's one of the only black students. And the story kind of starts off with Star being a witness to a shooting of a black man. Basically the consequences from there, and how Star always feels like she has to adapt herself to which crowd of people she's with. If she's hanging out in her black community with her friends there and her family, she acts one way. If she's in school with her non-black friends, she acts a different way. It's just a really important book and it brings great conversation, I would say. I actually also watched the movie this month and the movie is amazing. I give it 5 out of 5. Super good. Not only the story, but also just the way it's made and like technicalities and how the scenes look and such. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous. Watch it. It's very heavy. Like I basically cried throughout the most of the movie, I think, or I was teary-eyed throughout the entire movie basically. But I cry at everything. It was a very heavy movie to watch, but it was so well made. Like so well made. Watch it. Hate You Give. First audiobook ever. Super excited to continue reading audiobooks, or listening to audiobooks I guess. Following The Hate You Give, I started my reads for the next readathon. The third readathon that I participated in June. No, July. I've been saying June. The third readathon that I participated in July was the Reading Rush. I know this one has had some controversies. I'm not gonna speak about those. I just want to talk about the books that I read. I read Such a Fun Age. I said I wouldn't talk about the controversies and I start with the book that created controversies. Let's just talk about the books. I read Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid and oh my god, I loved it so much. It was so fun, it was so well written. I just wanted to consume it and devour it and at the same time just kind of savor it and be slow with it because it was so good. I liked the characters. I liked to read from the main character's perspectives. I liked it so much. This could potentially have been a 5-star read. In my mind, I'm rating it as a 4.5 star. The reason why I didn't put it at 5 is because I was a bit disappointed by the ending of the book. Like, I loved the first half of the book, but I didn't love the second half as much. Honestly, it should have been a 5-star. It was this close to being a 5-star. This book is about a white woman and a black woman. The black woman is a babysitter for the white woman's family. And one night she is asked to babysit this family's daughter. I don't remember the names, unfortunately. But the black woman takes this daughter to the grocery store. And at the grocery store, the black woman is basically accused of having kidnapped this toddler. And things develop from there. And I think it's also a very important book because it talks a lot about how different people view black people, I guess, and you see this black woman being treated differently by different people and it's kind of iffy, but it's also acceptable. So it's very difficult to say like, no, this is bad or this is wrong, because it's all just very grey area, I would say. In here it's still a 5-star and now I want all of my friends to read it. Once it's translated to Swedish, I might buy it for my mom to read. Great book. Good job, Kylie Reid. After Such a Fun Age, also for the Reading Rush readathon, I read Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This has also been on my TBR for a while and I read it and completed it during the Reading Rush. It was funny, it was good. Like the first 50 pages, it's hilarious. I didn't expect this book to be funny. Basically it's the future, we're in space, it's a sci-fi. It's mainly about a couple that have recently broken up and basically during the day of their breakup, their planet/colony is invaded, but they survive. Spoiler, but you kind of learned that in the first 10 pages. So they survive. This is actually a really cool book because it's told in mixed media. which means that it's told in documents and chat logs and files, many different ways of just telling the story. What also will happen in this book is there is an AI, an artificial intelligence, on the fleet or one of the fleets that the characters are on, which kind of starts freaking out. I gave this a 4-star as well. As I said, it was quite funny. Like, I laughed. I did a lot of when reading this one. Your planet is being invaded, but you don't care because you're currently going through a breakup, and that's so much more important. I don't know, it was really funny. So I really enjoyed reading the chat logs, and I really enjoyed some of the documentations, but I did not really enjoy reading the AI's perspective. I think it's just like the computer's way of thinking, and I didn't really vibe with that. And now for the final book that I finished in July, and it's been a long time coming because I finished Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. I started this one 2 months ago. I struggled with it a bit, and I know I'm gonna disappoint some people here, but hear me out. So this was my first time reading Neil Gaiman. This was a recommendation from a friend. That's why she borrowed me this book, and I know that she and another one of my close friends really love this book. So of course I wanted to read it. The story is basically about, I'm not even sure if I can explain the story honestly, but the book is basically about a young man named Richard. He lives a perfectly normal life, but one day he is dragged into something that's called London Below, which is basically like the people who slips through the cracks. And when he enters this new world, I guess this underworld of London Below, things just get weird. And I struggled with this weirdness. I did not expect this book to be abstract, and I think that's the issue with it. So like the first half of the book I really struggled with. I don't think I truly understood the story. One of my friends had to explain the main purpose of the story for me. Be like, oh, that's what it's about, because I had completely missed that point. The first half of the book I struggled with. The second half I just finished in a couple of days, because what I did was I started reading it like quicker, I guess. Not really spending as much time on all of the descriptions, mainly trying to focus on the story instead, on what was happening, where the people were going. So the second half of the book I actually quite enjoyed. But if I enjoyed it because I basically deleted half, I mean, that's not the best grade either, right? So I ended up giving this book a 2-star. What I can say though about this is that I really enjoyed the writing, which sounds weird to say considering I just said that I skipped half of the writing for the last part of the book. But that's not the thing. Like, I enjoyed the way this was written. I liked Richard because Richard was just as confused as I was by this London Below world, so I could relate to him. I should have gone into this book with different expectations that I did. Perhaps that would have helped me. One of my friends also recommended that I should listen to the audiobook for this one, because it's supposedly really good, so I might try that in the future. I am, I think, interested in reading more by Neil Gaiman. I like his writing, but I'm not sure yet if I like the stories. It was like every time I thought that I understood this book, I was pulled back. Also at the first like quarter of the book I was just really focused on the rats, because for me there was so much about rats that I didn't expect, and like, oh wow, is this some sort of rat book? It's not, it's just that there's a rat here, there's a rat on like every first page of a chapter, and there was mentions of rats throughout the book. Not that I mind rats, but I was just so confused by how much this first like 50 pages were about rats. So I think that messed me up as well. Sorry to disappoint. I wish I could have rated it higher. So that's it, I think. Those are the books that I read in July. 8 books. I'm very happy with that. I haven't read 8 books in a month since I was like 13, I think. 8 books, 3 readathons, and my first ever audiobook. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.
You gotta just go for it. Don't think about what comes